Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special webinar organized by the AASU, which is a member of the Global Education Coalition, launched by UNESCO. It's a capacity building conversation on the theme, what we have learned from COVID-19, skills under threat and new opportunities. And for those of you who are tuning in or connecting via all the social media networks, we welcome you from all over the world. My name is Bernard Avle. I am a radio and TV journalist based in Accra, Ghana. And I have a truly global panel to help us appreciate some of the nuances of where we are, highlighting the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on education, learning and skills acquisition, examining the opportunities available for students to build online, and to examine how COVID-19 will shape the future of work and processes and skill sets that are needed by employers.
Aussi partager des éléments concrets pour
I have a very strong panel that will be delving into these matters. And before I introduce the panel, I'd like to welcome for her opening remarks the senior specialist
Avant de démarrer cette discussion, j'aimerais
European Training Foundation Italy, Eduarda Castelbrand, to give us the opening remarks. Madame, you have the floor. Thank you.
Qui seront faits tout de suite par Madame.
Thank you, colleagues. I would like to share my screen as agreed.
Merci, Monsieur le modérateur.
Dear all Students' Union, your invitation to be here with you is a real honor. You are the future of this great continent. You are future countries, leaders, experts, actors of democratic processes and citizenship initiatives. And you are learning how to take this task seriously and consistently. This is a brilliant initiative, this webinar. Thank you very much.
J'aimerais féliciter la tenue de ce webinaire qui est un vrai procédé,
First of all, climate change, awareness, streaming, innovation, and also naturally digitalization, including automation, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and big data. But in a glimpse of an eye, with the start of this new decade 2020, the world has been hit by this new force, the pandemic, a pandemic that is affecting all continents, nations, sectors of social activity, work, and individuals. The pandemic highlights and pinpoints, accelerates, destroys, and redefines priorities. We are all apprehensive, naturally. This is a great unknown.
Les objectifs de développement durable l'horizon 2030 ont mis en avant certains défis que l'on devrait relever et le COVID-19 vient mettre en évidence un certain nombre de points, de défis et de challenges que l'on va relever. Premièrement, je voudrais mettre en avant les inégalités, le manque des infrastructures de base comme la connectivité et les écoles.
The pandemic is accelerating the digital transformation of work and learning.
La pandémie a venu également mettre en avant les emplois qui ont été réduits et le travail également.
And these
qui sont désormais très incertains dans certains secteurs et pour une tranche de la population. Par ailleurs, la pandémie de COVID-19 a accéléré des outils comme des outils modernes comme la communication digitale, notamment à travers le travail en ligne et la formation en ligne. Et également mettre en avant au fait, et également mettre en avant la nécessité de s'adapter désormais, d'adapter les cursus désormais.
Makeshift schools and universities, digital devices shared between parents and children to carry on remote work and remote learning. In many countries in Europe and Africa, the old-fashioned TV and radio school were revived and modernized in a matter of days or weeks to assure provision of education directly to homes. Family homes became offices as work became teleworking. Websites of ministries of education everywhere became providers of e-learning resources and of guidance to schools as well as to parents as they became the new teachers and tutors, supporting them in this new paradigm of learning from home prompted by the COVID-19 lockdown and this global school closure. Never stop learning, says the Minister of Education of Ghana.
Le ministre de l'Éducation du Ghana a déclaré qu'il ne faut pas arrêter d'apprendre.
Says the Federal Ministry of Education of Nigeria, as two examples. Teachers became e-teachers.
La même affirmation a été reprise par le ministre nigérien de l'Éducation.
Meaning the future teachers had no alternative but to embrace new paradigms. An unpredicted opportunity maybe. How to carry out end of the year assessments within safety guidelines. Numerous solutions emerged, often bottom up, based on flexible combinations of modalities and instruments of student assessment and schedules. UNESCO issued 10 recommendations for distance learning. Countries adapted or created their own roadmaps and orientations for distance learning. Regional and continental organizations rushed to map education COVID-19 responses. Surveys were launched and experience sharing platforms created. In the European Union, the European Commission teams grappled to put together the Digital Education Action Plan for the EU. Grand programs of student mobility are being revisited, and in the near future, we are speaking about virtual mobility. Spain has just approved a large-scale program of education digital to boost the digital transformation and curb digital inequality. Yes, inequality is very substantial. There are great inequalities affecting these education COVID-19 responses. Connectivity is still low in many countries. Access of households to digital devices, computers, also demonstrate the large social inequalities. And in many rural areas in the continent, there is very limited access to radio. So to conclude this initial statement, I would like just to mention the following. One of the silver linings from this crisis may very well be reimagining what education can and should be in the 21st century, with efforts combined at all levels, at local, at national, continental, and global levels. These silver linings, I will continue talking about them in the next, in the panel, in the opening remarks to the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eduarda, for those very insightful remarks. And we are reminded that the pandemic highlights inequalities and gaps. It destroys jobs and employment, but it accelerates digital transformation and adaptability and redefines priorities. I'll come back to you on those during the discussion itself. We now want to hear from our keynote speaker, who is a highly respected and celebrated human resource practitioner in Ghana, Dr. Ellen Hagan. For many years, her organization has led in the field of developing human resource strategy for many companies, and she's been voted Marketing Woman of the Year, won many key awards in Ghana over the past few decades for her outstanding work in the organizational development and human resource development space in Ghana. So we're going to hear from her for the next 10 minutes as she outlines her views on this very important topic.
Dramatically compare the arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic to a sportsman who has an unfortunate accident whilst training that renders him paralyzed. Faced with this handicap, the sportsman can decide to throw his hands up in despair or develop certain essential skills to continue living a fulfilled life. We have many examples in the world of people who have been dealt with what many of us would call a bad hand. And yet, through hard work and a can-do spirit, they're able to do much more than able-bodied men. You only need to watch the Paralympic Games to see how others in this situation have been able to overcome. The operational word is overcome. People born blind can overcome and learn to play musical instruments despite their physical challenges. In the same way, we will probably not be the same after this pandemic. But we can overcome and develop skills that may very well catapult us to high levels of achievement despite our handicap, perhaps because of our situation. The subject of the future of work is not a COVID-19 phenomenon. It is one that has been under a lot of discussion over the years regarding which jobs will be created and which ones will be extinct in the future. The pandemic has only catalyzed the incidence of that future and brought it closer to us. Last year, our annual HR conference theme was Agile Work. Creating the thought leadership in this regard, little did we know we were going to be plunged into practicing what we had preached. For example, one thing COVID-19 has done is to open the eyes of educators to teach without people physically sitting in classrooms. Now, wait a minute. That may not totally be accurate since as far back as 2007, distance learning involved a lot of online work using the virtual blackboard started in our universities in Ghana. And in Chicago, distance learning started as far back as 1892. What is phenomenal with COVID-19 is that all levels of education, be it primary, high school, and medical school, all moved simultaneously to deliver education virtually. Now, that is phenomenal. So now that we have a basis for comparison, it is anybody's guess what will happen to the traditional way. I'll start with technology savviness. Social distancing and remote working is the new normal during the COVID-19 pandemic. The digital transformation in organizations is being fast-tracked by the pandemic, and after things have settled down, many more businesses will realize that agile working creates trust-based relationships, embraces innovation, and places a value on people. Businesses cannot help but realize digital work, which focuses more on performance, is a more advantageous work model than the traditional way of working. In this regard, workers who are adept at technology will be seen as valuable resources, particularly in the areas of database management, data literacy and analytics, application and software development, cybersecurity, and cloud computing. Students will need skills in independent learning. Linked to that is the fact that learning is going to be largely possible with those who are comfortable with digital skills, apps, online tools, virtual processes, and with writing exams online and so on. The next area I'd like us to consider is digital marketing. Consumers are spending more time online and on social media more than ever, as it remains the safest mode of entertainment. Businesses and brands have already recognized the importance of digital and social media marketing to increase their brand immediate. People who have developed their online marketing skills will be sought after more by brands, especially in the areas of digital content creation, platform management, personal online branding, influencer marketing, and remote collaborations using video conferencing tools and social media platforms. I'd like to talk a little bit about leadership. There will be more people needed at different levels in organizations to lead others in a world where remote working will continue. People with high leadership acumen to wield significant influence to encourage work ethics and increase productivity among team members will be highly sought after. It is important as a leader to have critical thinking skills, be adaptable and flexible in your approach to work. You should be highly emotional intelligent and be committed to learning always to improve upon oneself. Another area is freelance and consulting. As companies continue to tighten their belts to reduce expenditure, more will be looking at outsourcing works to skilled freelance workers and consultants to work on short-term projects. Individuals who project themselves as such would find themselves with an upsurge of contract work post-pandemic to provide services such as management consulting, training, headhunting, creative content development, and sales. Now, I'd like us to look at entrepreneurship. Many jobs are likely to be lost due to a predicted downturn in global economy. As a result, there will be a surge in business enterprises as many will be forced into entrepreneurship. Different combinations of all the above-mentioned skill sets spell success. Business opportunities in delivery services, social media management, influencer marketing, freelance platforms, application development, IT consulting, virtual training, etc., are good areas to look at moving forward. To conclude, those days of the fear of IT are over if you are going to have a secure job. Not many jobs will be open for the liberal arts, I'm afraid. HR, for instance, will be largely electronic, outsourced, etc. Finance and HR will be all about data analytics. In addition, candidates who are not able to adapt or be flexible will be challenged. Data analytics, coding skills, automation, and robotics will be the new sought-after skills. Artificial intelligence is already defining the sales and retail industry. Banks will have less of tellers and more of relationship bankers. Flexibility is key. The culture of us moving physically to the stadium has changed. So has the culture of moving physically to the theater. Even the way the workplace is organized is changing. Hot desking is being practiced. And teams may not be together, and yet will need to work together productively as a lot more people are working from home.
Good morning. I am here to take your temperature.
They do 50% of the technical work. They take vitals like temperature. They record messages that give us a feedback in terms of clinical judgments.
Meet Akazuba, Ikizere, and Gabo. These are no ordinary healthcare workers. They report for duty at the Kanyinya COVID-19 treatment facility, a short distance from Rwanda's capital, Kigali. The African nation has deployed these robots in a bid to minimize contact between patients infected with the coronavirus and doctors and nurses.
They help us to decrease or reduce the risk of transmission from patients to staff. Let's say before we had them, we'd visit between 2 to 3 or 4 times a day per patient. But now at least we now up to 2 times a day. So that tells you how helpful they are and what impact they have made in terms of reducing the number of visits to the patient.
The sleek white robots with their big bright blue eyes carry out simple tasks like take temperatures, monitor patients, take readings of vitals, and deliver video messages and feedback between doctors and patients. Officials said the bots will be programmed to carry out additional tasks as well.
If you program them, they can take a tray to patients with the products you want to bring to the patients, they can bring them. But for now, we are using them for those tasks.
The robots were donated by the United Nations Development Program. Rwanda already uses drones to deliver blood and enforce restrictions designed to slow the spread of the coronavirus. There are 2 more robots at the country's other COVID-19 treatment center, Yamata in southeast Kigali.
Okay, so welcome back. We thank Dr. Ellen Hagan for her presentation. We went off slightly. If you are having any challenges, we apologize. So a lot of things said. The pandemic came at a time we didn't expect, but there are adjustments we can make: technology savviness, digital marketing, entrepreneurship, data analytics, and all of this will be part of the discussion later on. Now, I want to introduce the panel to delve into these matters strongly, but I want to thank Dr. Ellen Hagan for her very insightful presentation and that smart video at the end to also help us appreciate this better. So I have a senior lecturer in strategic management and faculty head of research at of research students training at the Montfort University, Leicester, UK, Dr. Sheun Kolade. Doc, if you are there, just give me a hi. Doc, are you there? Well, we also have a project startup consultant with Youth Challenge International Ghana, Miss Gifty Volim Karime Cook. Gifty, if you are there, give us a hello.
Ben, hi everyone.
Now, we have also joining us from Abuja in Nigeria, a content development and communications manager and Google Digital Skills trainer at Santons Consultancy.
Here are the top search results.
In the person of Mr. Amaraizu Genius. Genius, if you are there, a quick hello to you.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much for having me.
And then we have a data analyst and project management assistant, Anglo-American Platinum Director of Finance for the Commonwealth Youth Council. Joining us from South Africa is Miss Didintle Letlapi. Didintle, hi.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me.
Great. Now, what I want to do is to give each of the panelists, of course, we still have Eduarda Castel Branco here with us. She will also be on the panel. I wanted to give each of the panelists a few minutes to just give us their general thoughts on the topic and what they've heard before we delve into specific issues. Don't forget, this is a panel on what we've learned from COVID-19, skills under threat and new opportunities. And we've just heard from Dr. and Mrs. Ellen Hagan with that brilliant presentation. So let me take some opening comments from Dr. Sheung. Sheung, if you are there, let's hear you.
Hi, Bernard. Yeah, thank you for having me, and well done to the AASU for this excellent webinar that you put together. It's a very timely and topical issue. So thank you for having me. And thank you, Eduardo, for the speech earlier and for the keynote speech as well. So I think my first comment is first to reflect on what has been mentioned earlier on, that in the past 10 years, we've already seen, the pace of digital transformation, and talks about the fourth industrial revolution and all of that. But what COVID-19 has done is to accelerate that pace of transformation and forcing organizations and businesses and individuals across the world, to respond and to generate new approaches and new models. And that is certainly the case as well in the higher education sector, where universities across the world are about to rethink their strategies in terms of delivering content, in terms of assessing students, and in terms of actually exploring, new or revisions and other innovative, programming and curriculum development that they have not maybe given much priority before. And I hope that the panel will give an opportunity to explore some of those. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that COVID-19 has, of course, had such a disruptive impact across the whole spectrum of society, but it has also actually created potential opportunities. And I think this is one of the key areas that an organization like AASU, and rightly so, should be engaging with, because it presents, African youth with unique opportunities to step into this space, to take advantage of the gaps, that have been precipitated as a result of this, disruption, and to see it more actually of an opportunity than a challenge, because there are enormous opportunities, which I hope we can be exploring further. And just to exemplify that very briefly, according to a recent ILO report, by 2022, digital transformation will have led to the loss of about 75 million jobs across the world. So that is massive. Wow. But at the same time, digital transformation will have created, as a result of the new division of labor between human machines and algorithms, will have created a new 133 million jobs. So on the whole, what you have is a net gain of 58 million new jobs. So we talk about disruption and loss of jobs, but there are also opportunities. And I hope there'll be time to explore that in the course of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. There will certainly be time to explore that. I like the numbers you're putting out already. But let's take the opening comments of Ms. Gifty Cook. Gifty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Eduardo, Doctor, and Ms. Hagan for the insightful contributions. From looking at the pandemic, we have all been on this journey that we didn't plan for. We never signed up for it, but we woke up and realized that we were on board the train. African youth have always been disadvantaged in terms of quality and the quantity of education and the jobs in terms of decency in the market. And this pandemic is exacerbating those because of the expectation that over 19 to 22 million jobs will be lost, associated with the economic consequences that are related to this pandemic. It further widens the skill gap as well as the crisis and limiting the opportunities for the youth. But at the same time, as Dr. did mention, it's also opening opportunities. The opportunity here is for young people to begin building the resilience and psyching themselves to endure and strive. And we are also looking at working with programs, because I'm been in the development field, to strengthen skills development programs that should be able to maintain the jobs that are already existing, and then also create additional new jobs that will give these young people the opportunity to maintain and redefine their business models that will be relevant, sustainable, and also contribute to the service of their communities and their own livelihood. So there are a number of things to explore, because the jobs are being lost everywhere, but at the same time, we have seen innovations across the African continent, in Libya, in Ghana, in Uganda. Young people have come up with innovative solutions using the digital economy to develop those and continue striving in businesses. So there are a number of opportunities despite the crisis that we find ourselves or we are dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gifty. And I'm hearing the word opportunity everywhere. So almost everybody who's spoken has used that word. And I'm happy that we are looking at the bottle half full, not half empty. So it's great so far. Let me take the opening comments of Amaraizu Genius, joining us from Abuja. Amaraizu, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. I greet every other panelist that's here with us. Basically, I looked out while I was making some researches. I looked out at the latest International Labour Organization and then World of Work report. And the report specified the situation in Africa. It says that the forecast is that an equivalent of 22 million full-time jobs will be lost in Africa in this second quarter of 2020 alone. That was the forecast they made the first quarter. And did that forecast come to pass? Yes, it did. In addition, they said that 26.4% of workers in Africa are working already in the risk sector. And out of this population, only 17.8% is covered with some form of social protection. This statistics does not only include the youth, but includes people as young as 15 to 34-year-olds, making up close to half of the population in the whole of Africa. And as we know, Africa is made up of a younger population. This also accounts for the majority of people who are in the agricultural sector, who are in the informal sector, young persons who are in school. Now, a question comes to mind. If the situation is this bad when it comes to jobs in Africa, what is the way forward? What can we do? What can be done to create jobs, to open up more opportunities? And there was just one response that was reoccurring. And that response, as mentioned in the opening remark, is all about digital transformation. Digital transformation. And from my own end, I'll be basically talking on the power of digital transformation and how we can all take advantage of it. Students, youth, even the elderly persons, how Africa can survive this period by taking advantage of the digital transformation that has met us here, even faster than we planned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raizu. You're a genius. So essentially, COVID has accelerated our digital transformation. I look forward to hearing your thoughts later on. Let's take the opening thoughts of Ms. Didintle Letlape. She's joining us from South Africa. Didintle, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I think, so we went into lockdown on the 26th of March, and what we really saw with schools only opening recently on the 8th of June is that a lot of kids were left behind, particularly those in the rural areas. But what I've seen, and I've said that, like someone mentioned earlier, there's been so much opportunity with COVID in the sense that I find that a lot of people that were disadvantaged previously, there's been an acceleration as to, okay, we need to provide these people with essential services. So basic things that they should have had in the past are really, they're coming to get them now, like water, like food provision, although it's not sustainable. Like there was a lot of opportunities that came from this, and a lot of equality was being resolved, And from my end as well, we saw a lot of universities distributing laptops, and a lot of telecom companies coming together and saying, you know what, we will provide the data, although it's not sustainable, but it was a start, and it was a way of accelerating this digital transformation that was mentioned. So from a data analysis point of view, I think it's been very critical for the adaptation and the acceleration of digitizing, because with any data analyst and with any opportunities, it's critical to notice the gaps, because if you don't notice the gaps, you will either, you're going to lose your business, or you won't be as profitable, So that's the importance of digital data analysis and within the space, is that how do we take what we know, how do we take information that's been presented to us, whether it's from a health stats position, education stats position, and say, okay, how do we take this as a business and make it work for us? So I think it's definitely one of the important opportunities that students should be looking into. And one of the skills that have really come out of this is agility. It's emotional intelligence, it's the ability to adapt, it's the ability to think critically, because I think these are the future skills that students are required to have in order to adapt. It's either you adapt or die. And I think that this is really what COVID-19 has done for a lot of institutions, for a lot of jobs, and a lot of economies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Didentle. I look forward to hearing more about lockdown diaries from South Africa and how your students are coping, because it's a big story we're following. I'm a journalist, and in Ghana, almost every time we discuss your lockdown and some of the things that happened, including the alcohol wars. Eduarda, because you gave us the framework at the start, I'm guessing you will skip your thoughts for now until I come to your questions. Is that okay, so that I can then start questioning the other panelists?
Good, yes.
Great. Now, let me start with Dr. Sheung again. Doc, so we want to know, as an academic and a professor, how has COVID impacted the learning and the teaching methods you use and institutions of higher learning generally? How has COVID affected the delivery of education? Give us some more insights into that area from your experience in academia, Doc.
Okay, thank you very much once again, Bernard. I think I'm on. Okay, yeah, thank you. So I think, what has happened, like I hinted in my opening remarks, is that, universities and institutions of higher learning have had to, rethink and, adapt. And there was actually little time, because in the UK, for example, the lockdown came into effect on the 23rd of March, which was actually in a way a good time, because, the first semester was just has ended and the new semester was beginning. So, so we've had to, move, lectures online, which means, putting infrastructures in place, digital infrastructures in place, within a short space of time. It means providing guidance, and technical support to staff in order to be able to work with this interface. We've always had, a degree of, digital, interface, applied in delivering sessions, things like Blackboard, like, Turnitin and the rest of it. But not so much in terms of delivery of lectures, but maybe in terms of assessment, in terms of, providing resources and all of that. So there has been an increase, a wholesale, transfer of lectures online. And that has thrown up its own challenges, because this is the case even more so in African countries, but across the world actually, that you require students who have a good level of internet connection. And I think Eduarda was talking about digital inequality earlier on. So this is something that is relevant across the world, not only in African countries. So these are some of the challenges that we're having to grapple with, about how can we support students who can no longer go to the library, who have to use their own infrastructure, digital infrastructure, to access content and to participate. So there is that challenge. There's also the other challenge about, how do you actually, the quality of delivery itself. So, I mean, you can give a speech or a lecture style, but the most effective kind of delivery learning takes place in an atmosphere of interaction. Okay, dynamic interaction between the learner and the teacher, where they co-create knowledge in that dialectic process of engagement and interaction. Now, there's a challenge, of course. It's not that you can't do that through video digital interface, but it's more challenging. It's not the same kind of vibes, if you like, that you get to be able to have debate and discussions. So I think so there are gaps in terms of technology there, about so there are gaps of future development of that technological interface to facilitate better interaction, so that learning can actually take place, because that is actually key to effective learning. So in my own practice, in the past I've used interface that allow students to also interact through text, where you can do polling. We have several Socrates, Plikas, Me Too, and a few other interface that can allow students to actually send comments, which actually sort of complement the awkwardness or challenges inherent in this kind of video kind of conversation taking place. So those are some of the challenges, but but by and large, I think universities are getting on with it. Of course, there are also issues around assessment. So you have to do assessment differently, because there are no longer physical examinations, face-to-face examination taking place. So those are some of the changes that have happened. And I think what is going to happen post-COVID-19 finally is that we see a permanent transformation of that space. Things cannot go back to what they were before.
Thank you, Doc. Now, in your earlier submission, in your intro, you made a very interesting point that whereas this situation could lead us to lose 75 million jobs, we could gain 133 million new jobs, so a net of over 58 million jobs. What I wanted you to do was to highlight for me where you think some of the next opportunities would be, particularly for our youth who want to be entrepreneurs. If there's a net increase in 58 million jobs, give us a bit more hint into where we should be looking to benefit from those 58 million. Doc.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. I'm trying to share my screen. I hope you can see. I just want to show some to respond directly to the question that you've asked. So this is the information about so this is from the World Economic Forum, and that was actually even before COVID-19. So this report, and you can imagine the numbers are probably even higher. So there are a number of jobs that are at risk, and you can see that on the slides there. That among that is the data entry clerks, the sort of thing that you do manually. A lot of manual activities, are at risk. Accounting and bookkeeping as well. Clerks. Assembly and factory workers, because you then have robots, artificial intelligence, dominating that space increasingly. Cashiers and ticket clerks, because people are doing transactions now. Everybody has mobile, devices and so on. And you can see mechanics, machinery repairers, and bank tellers, electronic and communication installers, all of those. So these are some of the highlights of jobs that are at risk. But if you look at the new opportunities, this is where the new opportunities are. Data analyst and scientist, AI and machine learning specialist, big data specialist, and information security analysts, and so on. All of those are actually with digital competencies. So, and what you see emerging here is that people have said, are robots going to steal our jobs? No, robots are not stealing our jobs. Artificial intelligence is not stealing our jobs, but they are changing them. And the kind of response that is then required is, reskilling and, acquiring new skills. And that is, I think, these are some of the areas. some of the challenges that COVID-19 has accentuated, there are pathways to digital solutions for them. So this is where our youth need to position themselves to use, these, digital skills to address some of the problems. For example, I know of a couple of friends in Ghana who set up, something similar to Amazon because they realize that there are people both within the continent and outside the continent that want to support or that want to procure, things for their friends and family. But COVID-19, that is not really easy to do. Have the online interface where you can actually buy things. Of course, you still need a bit of, offline, logistics to be able to actualize that. But that is just an example of, using digital skills to fix the problem. And I think that, for me, is the direction that youth have to go there, to acquire those new skills in order to be able to, to position themselves to take advantage of these new opportunities. As you can see, there on the slides.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Doc, for sharing. Hope to come back to you again, but I sincerely thank you. Now, let me bring in our project startup consultant, Miss Gifty Cook. So we've just heard Shaun talk about opportunities, 58 million net new jobs. Now, what type of support, either financial or entrepreneurial, would be needed for our young people to benefit from the types of opportunities that this transformation brings? Because I know, because of your work, you know the difference between having a great idea and actually implementing it to be viable. So, Ms. Gifty, if you can give us some insights into what support systems we need to put in place to enable our particularly small business people and graduates benefit from the opportunity that COVID presents.
Okay. So skills has always been the defining factor in whatever we do around jobs and the world of work. In terms of the opportunities, governments all over the world are responding in different ways, and they have different packages to support businesses to strive. And young people who have models or designs that are falling in line, these stimulus packages should position themselves to be able to benefit from those. There are also the opportunities for development partners that are looking at developing skills programs, strengthening them in a manner that young people can still access, especially skills around digital literacy that will enhance their that will build their acumen to be able to start the businesses. Some of them have even started, but they need support. The world of work is also looking at connecting young people to the private sector, because private sector has always and will always be the defining factor for supporting young people to develop their business acumen. The practical thing now to do, because we have the limitations and restrictions still around converging people to be able to do trainings and all that, we'll be looking at people volunteering and doing internship opportunities to be able to build those skills that are very critical for their survival, either to initiate an idea or to expand their businesses and adapt the models to the current issues. So we have internship opportunities that people are looking for. People should also be willing to volunteer their time right now to learn the skill. There are also the peer youth themselves who are coming together as collaborating on solutions, and through that they are supporting to transfer this knowledge, because there are some of the skills that are transferable from one person to the other. So things like content development is a skill that can be learned from by yourself, and is a skill that you don't need too much time to be able to learn, and that is very transferable and is sustainable. So young people themselves have that opportunity to be able to support themselves. It is a time that people are sitting at home or have limited time to stay outside if you want to protect yourself from all the issues. So people should take the opportunity of this time and build their capacity around these skills that you can learn at the comfort of your home. We have family support because it is difficult, but there are still people who can do bootstrapping to be able to raise funding within the family system to support their own businesses. So that is also another opportunity that young people can initiate, because usually if you have to attract somebody to put in money, you need to look, at least have the idea, actualize it before somebody will believe in it. So those are also opportunities, and it doesn't have to be any serious money that you need. But once you are able to start something small, you can grow it from it. So an example will be convenience. Right now is a real business opportunity. People are very restricted, even those at home, at work. So if a young people can start a business by packaging food stuff like rice, like tomatoes, peppers, and all those things, repackage them and send them to people, deliver this to people. And that will be a starting point as a business solution, because people need these things. And some of them are restricted because families are staying at home, doing homeschooling and all that. So there is no too much time to move around. But that is an opportunity that a young person can use it to start a business from. So there are all these initiatives that as development workers we are looking at, but also within the world of work, young people will also find these solutions. We've seen young people in Ghana here who are automating. They are developing, there was a contactless hand washing equipment powered by solar. These are also pushing young people to think beyond what they usually know as the usual way of doing businesses, because it has forced people to innovate. There was even a young girl that used a plastic bottle and made it, created some holes in it to support hand wash. So those are all initiatives that young people, I think, should delve into.
Now, I hear you well, and I get the impression from what you're saying that skills development and matching young people to the right private sector people is probably even more important than even money, because most young people I interview on my radio show say they don't have access to capital, they don't have access to financing, interest rates are too high, nobody wants to lend to them. So what is your comment about money in terms of how to get the young people to benefit from these opportunities? Is finance, how critical is finance in this conversation, Gifty?
Finance is critical, but it's not the ultimate. It's not the ultimate because if you have finance in starting a business, there is a level at which you would need to inject a certain amount of finance to scale. If you do that injection either early or later, it will collapse the business. So it is very crucial in business, but it's not the ultimate for the success of the business. Most of the finances the young people right now are requiring, some of them actually are requiring finances that are even not at the stage their business models are. So, but they would need to work with somebody who understands and can handhold them through the stages to understand at what stage do I need to invest what amount into the business. And that is the mentorship and coaching opportunities that young people need. And we can still exploit those opportunities within this restrictive time period, because there are still these opportunities to connect virtually. So young people should be able to avail themselves and acquire the skills, being mentored, because once the business models are evaluated, you are able to understand at what point do you need money, because some of them you actually need technical expertise, you need support in terms of managing and setting up the different components of the business and structures than just money. Because once those structures are not properly set in place and you even inject money, the business would not strive.
Thank you very much for that. Let me just tell those who've joined us that this is a webinar on the theme, what we have learned from the COVID-19, skills under threat and new opportunities. So far, we've had a very insightful opening comment by Eduardo Castel Branco. She's given us a very nice framework. And then we've heard from our keynote speaker, Dr. Mrs. Ellen Hagan, who really took the conversation to the next level, where she says the pandemic has brought us closer to our future, and we are having to adjust technology-wise on a digital marketing perspective, entrepreneurship, and data analytics. We've also heard from Dr. Sheun Kolade, who is a senior lecturer in strategic management, and he's really said, look, the opportunity is big. Jobs may be lost, but there are new jobs coming. And Gifty Cook, who's a specialist in project startup, is saying, look, we need to match the young people to skills. We need to match them to the right private sector people. And of course, give them access to finance to take advantage of these opportunities. Now, if you have a question for us and you're watching on Facebook, please send your question via the stream. If you have joined this Zoom conversation as well, put your questions, we'll read them in the last half hour. We've done 1 hour in the session. I want to bring in Amaraizu Genius. And Amaraizu, because of his technology background, I'm going to go back to Ellen Hagan's comment about technology savviness, agile work, and smart work. Amaraizu, people keep talking about we need to work smarter. This is the future. A lot of this. You train people in this area. When we say smart work, what are we talking about? And how has COVID-19 made smart work the new norm?
Okay, thank you very much. Smart working is basically a new model that has come to stay with us. It didn't start now. Since the beginning of this decade, issues about the future of work has been tilted towards smart working. And nobody knew that it would be like this. Nobody knew that it will meet us at this time in this year. But COVID-19 has told us that, man, guys, you have to work smart. Smart working is basically just a new practice that have necessitated digital transformation in workplaces. Simply put, you can say that this is the adoption of flexible working style and culture that conform to allowing employees to become more responsible in managing both their time, their space, and working condition, and as well getting the expected effective and efficient performances from them. So smart working is all about delivering the best you can in a job, not limited by your space, not limited by ordered by your own personal timing, ordered by your own personal planning and schedule. Smart working is a model that gives the role of controlling work to the employee, to the worker, to the staff. Hey,
okay, Genius.
Yeah.
When I left university in 2004, I needed a few skills. I needed to know how to type. I needed to know how to do Excel. Driving was an advantage, and probably summarizing voluminous documents were the skills you needed to succeed in the world of work. Now we're in 2020. Somebody coming out of university today, what digital skills must they have in addition to what I've mentioned that the old school like me have for them to succeed in the modern world?
Okay, I group the digital skills that are relevant into 5 places. I don't just want to start mentioning skills one after the other, but I've grouped them so that if you catch an interest in any of the group, you can explore further. Now, the first group of skills that is most relevant, digital skills basically, that we need to add for young persons most especially, is branding and design. Branding and design. Now, communication has been revolutionized. And every company, every individual, every establishment have understood this. And they are willing to put money into their brands and design. And the beauty of this is that you can do this through smart working remotely. So developing skills in branding and design is one of the new digital skills every individual have to have. No matter your industry, no matter whatever you're doing, you are in the agricultural sector, you are in the IT sector or non-IT sector, you need to have a good knowledge of brand and design. Another group of skills I've also outlined that is very necessary is business and marketing analytics, analytical skills. You know, we no longer have to guess why people buy or engage or why people do what they're doing or why is this. Now, you go on Google, you find out how many persons search for a particular thing in Google at a particular time, from what location, and you find out the why. So if a young person has the analytical skills to understand data, you are much needed in the economy, you are much needed in the economic market. This is a relevant skill that all you need is technology assistance. Smartphone, digital gadgets, you don't need to stay in a covered space. Then the third group of digital skills I think young persons need to also adopt is coding, programming. Now, if someone decides to commit 8 hours a week, in 6 months, you will be excellent in coding. Coding is using the information you have, you know, the coding language to create solutions. The world is in need of solution to anything. That we are using Zoom now, believe me, if you know the back end coding of this Zoom technology, you understand the power of coding. So these are another group of skills that individuals need. Although that coding is quite a technical kind of skill, that for you to be a programmer, you need to dedicate a lot of energy and time towards perfecting the skill. So another group of skills also I want to mention, apart from coding and programming, is the digital marketing skill, digital marketing. Every one of us understand this part, that the world has gone digital. You're a father online. Everybody is online. I am eating, I am online. So that means that where or what skill particularly can help businesses grow? What skill particularly can help somebody that has a solution meet the person that needs that have a demand for that solution? And the connecting skill is digital marketing. Digital marketing is the ability to bring out a product, get that product to the person, the consumer that needs it. And what do you need to do this? Digital gadgets, your digital platforms, that's all you need. So this is a skill that we have to have. Even though you might not be an expert in digital marketing, as an individual, no matter your industry, you need to have an idea. Okay, I do this, I'm into the education business, I'm into this other business, I'm into agricultural business. I need to market my skill. Okay, with this skill I have, the means of marketing is digital marketing. Perhaps I need Facebook to run Facebook ads, perhaps I need social media ads in group, or I need a Google kind of ads, or I need this, I need that. With digital marketing skills, you understand what you need. And with the person who is an expert in digital marketing skills, the person can deliver from start to finish in the process of manufacturing and consumption. Also, another group of skill that which is the fifth one and the last one I want to share is selling and communication skills generally. Please, let's not confuse it. I've mentioned marketing and analytical skills. I've mentioned coding and programming. I've mentioned digital marketing, and now I'm mentioning selling and communication skills. Let us not confuse these things. I group these things separately because selling and communication skills, some persons might say is not a digital skill. Selling is about meeting the person you want to sell to, talking and communicating rightly to the person and getting the product sold. In our COVID-19 era, things have changed. We're talking about smart working. We are talking about teleworking. We're talking about reaching out to persons, selling without seeing the person face to face. That is physical meeting. We're in a world of social distancing. Now, what new skill do you need? You need to learn how to sell using digital platforms. You need to learn how to communicate using digital platforms. There's no week I don't engage for an online class or for a training or for a webinar. In these things, we see that over, to an extent, 50% of the audience don't actually know how to navigate or communicate using these gadgets, even this Zoom that we're using. Do we blame them particularly? Do we blame our institutions? What do we blame? Well, in this case, there's no one to blame. But in the era that have become the new normal, selling and communication skills and how to use these gadgets, how to use these platforms and digital gadgets is most necessary. Communication has changed. It is no more business as usual. So these are the 5 groups of skills I think are most essential to make us live our lives the way we should in this new normal.
Wow. Amarizu, genius, by your skills, I am an endangered species. Because apart from communication, all the skills you've listed, I have to learn again. And so you need to help me, particularly with coding. So maybe after the session, I'll come and see you for some training. But thank you for your insights.
You're welcome.
To Eduarda. So your opening really struck me because you said the pandemic highlights inequalities and gaps. It destroys jobs and employment. It accelerates digital transformation and adaptability. And then it redefines priorities. That was so beautiful. What I wanted to ask you was to do with TVET. Because in Ghana, TVET is going through a bit of issue. Our polytechnics, for example, want to be known as technical universities. TVET is not very respected here. How do you suppose that the changes we are seeing under COVID will affect our TVET graduates? Should they be worried or should they be excited?
Thanks. Thanks very much for the question. Thanks also very much for the, let's say, for pinpointing again the main, let's say, messages with which I started. So the question, as always, can be answered in 2 ways. The question you asked about, let's say, the place, the role, the future, in a way, of TVET. And I would say, yes, graduates should be worried, and no, they should not be worried. Preferably, let me say, start with yes. Yes, of course, youth, not only TVET graduates, are disproportionately hammered by the labor market crisis, by the digital transformation and change in the content of occupations, destruction of jobs. And not only secondary and post-secondary TVET graduates, but also higher education graduates. From the other side, no, and this is, let's say, a little bit the hopeful, full message regarding TVET and other types of education and training. So jobs are being not only destroyed, as said earlier our colleague, they are being transformed. First of all, new jobs are arising. And if policies, skills development systems have in place and continue or improve their skills intelligence support or underpinnings with new real-time fine-grained analysis based, for example, on big data analytics. So labor market intelligence, supporting career guidance, and supporting at the same time the adjustments in curricula, in the provision of the necessary programs and skills qualifications, then the reply would be no. But this naturally assumes a degree of common efforts in transforming also our skills development systems. And I prefer not to use TVET, but skills development systems, including all types, modalities, and levels of learning. I hear in the conversation the word skills. Let us add knowledge, competence, responsibility, autonomy. Let us add to the conversation the notions of qualifications and credentials. Let us add to the idea of observatories of skills, including of digital skills. And thanks very much, Amarezo, for the excellent picture you have shared with us about the different types of digital skills. I think this is absolutely fundamental. Very often we speak of digital skills without really looking clearly at which are these digital skills by occupations. They are very different. Digital skills required by an occupation such as graphic and multimedia designer, or HR training specialist, or a clerk, or other occupations of different skills levels are naturally different. Skills rates, the skills relevance by occupations. So what I want to emphasize here is the fact that this skills observation, skills needs, skills transformation, observation, anticipation, and analysis is fundamental, so that the programs, the skill sets, the modules, the various micro-credentials that are appearing and emerging now in the market more and more in higher education, so that they respond to labor market changed, also to new societal needs, and equip young people and adults as well with the responsiveness and adaptability to all these changing trends in which we are now. Probably what is also very important is to embrace innovation. So TVET cannot be the old TVET. TVET has to embrace innovation and be able to articulate with all the different types of learning in the education and training system, in the qualifications frameworks, so that it includes general and vocational, school-based or work-based, full diplomas, micro-credentials, and also the possibilities to validate and recognize learning acquired in non-formal contexts. We learn much more in the non-formal, in life, in our work experience, and this is an important value to be taken into account in an individual's life path in learning. So in the COVID-19 recovery, lifelong learning is more important than ever. And obviously TVET, being able to be, if able to be flexible, to be well-grounded on skills, intelligence, and labor market information, supported by supporting career information and guidance, can play a new role, can play a new important role.
Thank you for that, especially for the conclusion about how TVET has to change to match the new economy. And I want you to elaborate a bit on that, because in a country like Ghana and other African countries, we are transitioning quickly from agriculture production, being the main employer of people, to services without going through manufacturing, which a lot of developed countries went through. So agric manufacturing services. In Ghana, we are transitioning from agric into services. Other countries like Rwanda are doing the same. So my question then is, how does TVET and the way we train our people in that middle level, how does that have to change to reflect this reality of the transition without going through manufacturing? So maybe you can elaborate a bit on practically how can the training of, say, somebody in vocational skills, whether it's in plumbing, whether it's in building technology, or whether it's into electricals, how does the training have to change to adjust to the new reality we are talking about?
Yes, the reply again would be, could have for two different levels. One, a macro, let's say, dimension. A macro dimension that deals more with the future of VET and how TVET contributes to the future of work. So this macro dimension that is always related with the design or redesign of policies, of policy approaches, and the governance of the TVET system. So governance implying naturally partnerships of different type, partnerships more than with the traditional partners, but with sectors, with youth organizations, with observatories and other players that are able to convey the new trends and convey the new expectations from different parts of the society, the labor market and the economy, to those who are developing and implementing and funding policies. Then when it comes to the more, let's say, meso level, then it would be important that the TVET actors in regions or sectors, players and beneficiaries, that they are able to articulate and to work together. And this is not always the case. TVET cannot really play its role in full potential working in isolation from the remainder of the education and training system. Of course, there are different types and objectives in TVET. There are objectives that are clearly related with employment only, with employability, immediate employability, so training for unemployed people, etc. But in taking into account the skills development throughout life, TVET needs to be able to speak, to dialogue, and to interact with the other parts of education and training system. And this is not always the case. So this is something that has to continue improving. So this partnership of all parts of the education and training system probably needs to be improved. Often this is possible, this is enabled, I mean, this better dialogue and convergence integration by functioning national qualifications frameworks. So this could be, again, one of the instruments with which TVET has to be well integrated, national qualifications frameworks. And finally, let's say at the micro level, then the providers themselves, the students' representations, the local communities need to be well funded. So this is an important element. Thinking that everything will function without proper funding, without investment in terms when skills have to undergo such a substantial, even revolutionary change is obviously unrealistic. So governments, continental and regional organizations need to really be conscious about the importance of investing in skills, in qualifications, and in systems that put all this together. And finally, let me just say that TVET responsive TVET is a responsive TVET, let's say, is able to be at all levels of a national qualifications frameworks, as it happens in South Africa or in other countries on the continent. So higher education institutions are more and more providing TVET type of programs and even qualifications. They can be big qualifications, professional, but also micro credentials. And this is another linking element between the technical vocational and the more tertiary, higher level of, again, professional oriented education and training.
Thank you very much.
Micro credentials, as I said, is a term that is appearing more and more in the discourse, in the debates, And it is becoming part of policy, of the policy development, policy making in many parts of the world. And it is receiving more attention as they need to be integrated and included in, placed properly in the education and training continuum and framework. So it's important to look at the various dimensions and levels of governance of a TVET system, not only the micro, not only the macro. Things have to be designed, implemented, monitored, and funded. Funding is important.
Thank you very much, Eduarda. We have another 38 minutes to go. So when I'm done with Didintle, those who are joining us from all over the world, you can send in your questions to us, your contributions. My panel is here. They'll be very happy to respond. So if you're watching on any of the social media platforms like Facebook, you have a comment, please send your questions and comments through. Now, Didintle, so great to have you on. Everybody says data is the new currency. Data is the new gold. Everybody's talking about data. You're a data analyst. You must be swimming in millions since data is a new currency. Talk to me about data analytics and the kind of opportunities presents for today's graduate going forward.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm struggling a bit. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Could you please repeat that? I just heard Didintle and then...
Okay, so I'm told data is the new currency. So you must be swimming in millions since you are the data analyst on the panel. But the real question is, how relevant is data analytics as an opportunity for business growth and also for our young graduates?
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to start by saying I actually studied to become a chartered accountant, right? And so one of the things as I was working in accounting, we realized that with the implementation of 4IR, you find that a lot of the skills are being phased out, you know. So for instance, we will no longer need someone who's going to come and debit and credit a journal because a computer is able to do that, you know. So one of the things that has evolved over the years is that the new CA is a data analyst. And what that actually means is someone is able to take information and provide valuable solutions with it, you know. So, and that's where the world of work is moving, because we're going to be having computers doing everything for us with 4IR. But the most important skills that we're going to have to derive and learn is critical thinking, you know, application of all of this, because yeah, so we're going to have financial statements being automated. Everything's going to be automated. We're going to lose some jobs. And as it was discussed earlier on, some jobs are going to be gained, you know. I briefly saw the other sheet that was shared by a gentleman that you know, that those are the future of work. Those are future-proof jobs, you know. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunities. I just want to share one of the other examples, for instance, because I'm in mining, you know, and what I've seen is that with mechanized mining, a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs. Already in South Africa, we're having banks retrench people because we having automation, we having computers do this, you know. So it's very, I think it's definitely one of the future-proof jobs that are being presented, because there's some things that computers will never be able to do that require that human touch, that human thinking. And I think because of that, those are the kind of jobs that students should be considering and thinking about. So across the board, like I actually saw some articles talking about accounting, talking about law, you know, all of those traditional careers that were highly esteemed. You know, in the coming years, everything will be done by some robot, you know, some computer. So we really need to position our students into thinking differently, into positioning themselves with these skills that can't be done by computers, can't be done by AI. So yeah, I hope that was, I don't know how clear my network is.
Yeah, it's clear. Thank you for that. How much of those skills are self-acquired, and how much of those skills do you learn from school in terms of, because you mentioned critical thinking, for example, and you mentioned it's almost as if you need to learn how to shift, whether you're an accountant or a lawyer. It's more the skill that you acquire, not just the education. So just walk me through whether this is something you deliberately develop on your own, or if the educational system is right, you would end up having these skills once you come through the educational system.
So I definitely, and I'll speak about the career of a chartered accountant as well, because part of the CASA in South Africa is critical thinking. So the kind of work that we do, it's one of the byproducts of that thing, that, you know, by doing such and such, by attempting such questions. So I think it's something that is integrated in some of the courses that are done. I can only speak for engineering, I can speak for accounting and so forth, because I think the nature of the job, and that's why you'll find that chartered accountants and engineers can even work at banks, you know, because it's a way of thinking that is actually implemented in those. So I think definitely education should consider maybe like a soft skill course if it's not integrated in your course, so that you can actually learn those kind of skills. Although I think with life and with everything, you know, there are certain core skills that you learn along the way, you know. But I definitely do think that if your curriculum or the course that you're not studying is not a very thinking kind of course, then it should be something that is implemented within the curriculum.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for those insights. I'll be reading a couple of questions that I've seen that will come through, but I mean, let me just do a quick round. Shaun, Doc, so we've been talking about financing digital enterprises. Where's the money going to come from? I wanted your quick comment on that. And also I made a comment about the manufacturing sector and how a lot of countries are moving from agri to services. Are there any opportunities for digital transformation in that sector? So Dr. Shaun, let me take your comments on that before I come to other questions.
Thank you very much. So just a very quick one on that. I think it was Gifty that mentioned that earlier on. I think it is important for us to recognize that the fourth industrial revolution, or what we talk about, you know, digital transformation, is knowledge and skill intensive rather than capital intensive. So what are young people, what youth, African youth are going to need more than, you know, the fund, and it is not to discount the importance of the fund, is actually to build their skill portfolio, and some of that has been outlined already. But there are also the digital, you know, solutions, you know, to address, you know, some of these challenges, you know, to financing. There is a lot going on now in the continent on crowdfunding, and so there are opportunities for, you know, new entrepreneurs, you know, to access that. There are also, you know, opportunity for new business models that actually you apply lean, you know, models, you know, that reduces, you know, cost, especially for startups. But also actually, you know, in terms of the technology required, there's a lot that can be done, especially for startups. They can actually use, you know, modest, you know, digital devices, you know, to do things, especially in terms of, you know, digital content creation. I've seen a lot happening on Instagram, on social media about, you know, young people, you know, creating innovative, you know, digital content with just their mobile phones. And so these are ways, you know, in which, you know, is also about, I think, what Dintu said earlier on about, you know, the importance of critical thinking, because we've done a lot of talking today about technology, and technology is very important. But underlying all of that is the creative abilities and capacities to be able to develop, to deploy, you know, these digital devices, you know, to a wide range, you know, of uses and, you know, and the applications to create, you know, value. And I think that is quite, you know, very, very important. But I think, you know, the emphasis there is that, you know, this sector and this industrial revolution is driven, is more knowledge and skill intensive rather than capital intensive. And that brings me to the comment about the manufacturer. I think we are a bit assuming that maybe, and partly because, you know, the manufacturing sector is highly, you know, capital intensive, that we are overlooking the fact that, you know, digital transformation is all encompassing. It's not just in the area of, big data analytics, and I think there has been some comment, to that effect that we need to think broadly, also about different skills that are required for different sectors. So Africa cannot afford to just close its mind in the area of manufacturing. There has been a lot of structural transformation, of the movement of labor from the agricultural sector to the services sector. But there are enormous opportunities in the manufacturing sector because there is what is now known as 3D printing. Now, 3D printing is also, one of the features of the fourth industrial revolution driven by digital interface. And it's also called additive manufacturing. And one way in which is different from the traditional manufacturing is that, with traditional manufacturing, what is called subtractive manufacturing, you have to, create, a big mold. And so there's a great loss of material. The technology is also such that it works on the economies of scale. So that means the more you produce, the better returns you actually get. But with additive manufacturing or 3D printing, it actually upturns the economy of scale to what we call the economies of one. So that means actually, number one, the technology is more cheaper. You can get some 3D printer for as low as $200. So that is the way the technology has evolved, massively over the past 10 years. It started several decades ago, but the last 10 years has seen a lot of movement. So I think there are opportunities there to have actually small and medium scale enterprises that are, using, 3D printing to create a lot of, new products. And to use one example recently, a group of Senegalese engineers and researchers worked together to use 3D printing to create, to produce ventilators. Now, ventilators, I don't know the exact figure, but it runs into thousands, probably, more than 10,000 pounds or whatever dollars. But they were able to actually use 3D printing to produce ventilators that are as cheap as $60. Now, that is massive. So there is a big, big opportunity there, especially in the continent that has not seen a lot of adoption of traditional manufacturing. So there's actually an opportunity there to, to leapfrog, to achieve technology leadership in 3D printing. And I thought it's important to actually, reinforce and emphasize that. So thank you very much, Bernard. Back to you.
Thank you, Sheun. Those of you who just joined us on Facebook and other platforms, you are part of a very exciting webinar organized by the AASU in collaboration with the UNESCO. We're discussing what we learned from COVID-19, skills under threat, and new opportunities. And we have a very fantastic panel. We have our keynote speaker, Dr. Mrs. Ellen Hagan, setting the scene for us. And our panel includes Eduardo Castelbranco, specialist in TVET policies. She's based in Italy. Dr. Sheun Kolade, whose voice you just heard, senior lecturer in strategic management and faculty head of research students training, De Montfort University, Leicester, UK. We also have Miss Gifty Balomkari-Mekug, who's a project startup consultant at a Youth Challenge International in Ghana. We also have Mr. Amaraizu Genius. He's Nigerian based in Abuja. He's a content development and communications manager and a Google digital skills trainer. We are also with us on the panel is Miss Didint Letlapi, originally an accountant, now a data analyst working in the mining sector in South Africa. It's been a very rich conversation so far, but fellow panelists, something is missing so far. I think the biggest story outside COVID in Africa is the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. And trade is not just in goods, it's also in services and skills. So my question for all of you for a quick 1-minute comment is, what does Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement mean for today's graduate who wants a job or who wants to survive? What kind of opportunity does it present? And this is an open question. Maybe let me come to Gifty. I haven't heard your voice in a while. What does the Africa Continental Free Trade movement of goods and services and skills, what does that mean for our typical graduate who's watching this program and wondering what to do after COVID?
Thank you. And so for the free continent, the African free continental trade, the opportunity in there is that we are all talking about closing the gap in various things, in gender, in skills, and all that. And we all in Africa are seeing that agri is presenting a huge opportunity to be able to creatively innovate in that area for young people. You don't necessarily have to tilt the soil, but there are areas that you can still create opportunities there. In the era of the free trade, it gives the opportunity for young people to be able to explore across the continent with that skill. So if you have the skill of all the skills we've mentioned here, if you want to connect producers to consumers across Africa, is an opportunity that you can explore. And that eliminates the barriers that hitherto were hinders on movement, and that couldn't give you the opportunity to explore those opportunities beyond your specific location. That has given us that opportunity to explore. There are also opportunities that people can learn and transfer skills. So, for example, in Ghana here, we've constantly struggled with having less tomatoes and then having to take it from Burkina Faso. Certainly, there is a technology that they are using to produce a lot more tomatoes, and they have it all year round that we don't have in Ghana. And when we even begin to produce, we have the rate of perishability is higher than what comes from Burkina Faso. So this gives us an opportunity to also learn from technologies that are working, and there is the opportunity also to partner. So for young people who are very smart and tech savvy, can do build this capacity virtually and be able to create those solutions within the communities they find themselves, because there are needs in different places. If you also talk about the service industry, in Ghana, we had the year of return that brought about a lot of opportunities. Other countries also have ways of engaging people, and I'm using that as an example because if you are talking about free trade, people are having, even in Ghana, I was reading an article that said Nigeria is working to import salt from Ghana here. So it means that even within us, we have all these resources, but we are being constrained because of the borders. So if that opportunity is giving us that lifting, that we can move things across ourselves, we will be self-sufficient. So just you can drive to Nigeria, but it's very difficult to move goods through. So that gives us an opportunity by lifting and easing our movement to be able to share and build the capacity within ourselves.
All right, thank you. There are a couple of questions here. So before the other panelists deal with my Africa free trade question, let me just read those questions so that if you want to answer, whoever wants to do so can answer. There's a question from Sally Fusongo. Sally Fusongo, who says, what is the way forward as far as COVID-19 is concerned, especially our youth in the tourism sector? What next for those vulnerable people? So COVID-19 and its effect on youth in the tourism sector. That's the one question. And then there's a question on how many days do you think the situation will remain as it is today? What percentage of our universities will lose students to COVID? That story is from Amiable Bobo Bonnie. So this one is more about how long we expect COVID to last and how many students will be lost to COVID. So I don't know who wants to tackle the tourism sector question and who wants to do the prediction. I'm leaving it open. Otherwise, I'll allocate somebody.
Well, I'm not an expert in the tourism sector, but I want to add something for whosoever that is a better expert in answering that. If you check out the statistics released by the World Tourism and Travel Council, you will be shocked at the number of jobs that have been affected by this COVID-19. And the tourism sector has to do with interaction, meeting of people. And COVID-19 has made it practically impossible. Now the question is this: what's the way forward? That's what the young person is asking. What's the way forward for youth? For the simple truth is that I don't know the exact answer, but the advice is this: every young person should take advantage of digital skills. Find a digital skill that can supplement whatever you are doing in the tourism sector. It is your key to surviving this era. Thank you. So somebody else should attempt the question as well.
Thank you for that. Any other takers?
Can I just quickly add to that as well? I think I agree with what Amaraizu has said. That is important across sectors for you to complement their skills so that they can do other things. But I think there's also probably an opportunity here to actually rethink tourism. It's still going to be for the foreseeable future, based mainly on physical, experience of places. But it doesn't have to be just limited to that. So I think this is an opportunity for African youth to actually take the conversation forward in new modes, of tourism or tourist experience. Because people visit, a place, like Ghana or anywhere else, to look to see, some of the historical places. I was in South Africa. I went, to some of the monuments, and all of that. Mandela and all of that. So there is a way in which youth can actually recreate the tourist experience by means of digital transformation. So there are ways in which you can actually create content, historical, cultural content. And especially at this time, this period in time that a lot of people are stuck at home. You probably are aware that, Netflix value, jump up by as much as about 300% or so. And I have seen some very new, African content, on this platform. So there is something there about the world actually looking for, more for new experiences of the African continent, virtual experience of the African continent. And there's a space there, for you to create content. They don't have to be very long content, that speaks to the history of the continent, that speaks, different places, in the continent, and there are enormous possibilities. So so it's good for you that are in the tourism sector, to complement their skills and do other things in other settings.
Thank you.
Yeah, but within the tourism sector itself, there are opportunities to use digital content, to create value, okay, and to generate income. Yes.
Any comment from Didintle or Eduarda?
I just wanted to add something regarding the free trade agreement, right? And I think it's what Sean is actually saying, that, I think we've seen also with Airbnb, the likes of Airbnb and the likes of Uber, that really there aren't any borders, the only borders are the ones that we place. And I think what this also presents is an opportunity, especially, I know for South Africa, for instance, with so much xenophobia and the tax, I think it provides us with an opportunity to unite as Africans, because what we've seen is that a lot of the times people, come down to South Africa for job opportunities or anywhere in the country. And this is seen as a threat as opposed to, providing other people with opportunities. So I think it also gives us an opportunity to address this, so that we say, our borders are open, and this is an African thing, we are one, as opposed to seeing each other as competitors. So I think that's definitely my take on the free trade agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment from Eduarda on the question so far?
There was a question asked by the colleague online on how long will this go on? As long as we don't have a vaccine globally available for all nations, probably this threat will remain. And of course, then numerous sectors, occupations will stay affected. I don't know if there is a moment in this conversation where we can say a word or two about the African Continental Qualifications Framework, whether it is now or later, just related also with the question on AFCFTA, African Free Trade Agreement.
Fair enough. I thought you would do that actually, because I think there's a link between the Africa Continental Qualification Framework and the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, and you are best placed to make the connection. So maybe you want to give us your thoughts on that, Eduarda?
Yes, thanks a lot. It's interesting that it's me talking about African integration, but I am now working with the African Union Commission in this big policy initiative of the development of the African Continental Qualifications Framework, ACQF, and therefore I'm very honored to say a few words about this. So starting with the AFCFTA, so the African Free Trade Area, as you know, it is operational since July last year, and the first protocol that is being put into operationalization is the Protocol on Trade in Services, and the 5 priority sectors for implementation are tourism, business, financial banking sector, transport, and communication. The link of this, of the implementation of the commitments in this, for these 5 sectors initially, and the skills and qualifications dimension is still to be explored, and this is one of the elements of analysis now under the African Continental Qualifications Framework project, so to explore the links with AFCFTA. But one of the links is, of course, mutual recognition agreements, so recognition of qualifications, education, which in a way also implies a degree of a certain harmonization. Let me also mention that under the continental agenda for integration, continental integration agenda 2063, a number, of course, of important flagship initiatives related with integration are underway, and one related again with free movement. The free movement protocol explicitly mentions the obligation to put in place such a continental qualifications framework. The same thing happens then, is again reiterated in the CESA, which is the Continental Education Strategy for Africa, 2016-2025. Again, this education strategy for Africa mentions and has indicators related with the establishment of the continental qualifications framework, but also national qualifications frameworks, because one doesn't work without the other and one contributes. So it's expected that the ACQF will contribute to, as a catalyst, let's say, to development at national level, developments at national level of qualifications, mechanisms to enhance transparency, comparability, compatibility, mutual understanding of qualification systems and qualifications themselves. So this is just to say that besides the AFCFTA, the Africa Free Trade Area, there are other important strategies and policy initiatives of the African Union, of course endorsed by all member states, that are in place and together will contribute to this, let's say, future common African education space.
Okay.
So this is. I just wanted to highlight that it's not only one element, but a couple, a number. It's an ecosystem.
Okay.
Integration. And just to finalize, let me say there is a long way to go in respect to integration. And since you all appreciate data and evidence, you might look, for example, at the recent report on the African Integration Index, report on 2019, the report of the African Union and the African Development Bank, that clearly displays the situation of integration in the various regional economic communities of the continent, and saying that there is a long way to go to improve the integration along the various dimensions of integration. But I think under the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, there is a huge potential for Africa to focus.
Eduardo, thank you. Thank you. Sorry if I'm cutting in. We have 8 minutes to go, and I want to read another quick question before we sort of close. This one is from Sefaji Keme, and basically asking, exchanges in African universities haven't been the norm over the years. I believe exchanges are a great way to learn new skills and develop new competencies and experiences. Will this pandemic cause stakeholders to rethink in this direction, to cause students to gain better awareness of the dynamics of the continent in terms of skills acquisition and opportunities? It's a good question. I don't know who to direct it to, but I have 8 minutes and I have 5 panelists. So I'm going to give each of you the chance to give your closing comments. And if you want to fuse an answer into this question to your closing comments, I would not be angry. So Sheon, you've been my most vocal speaker, so I'll start with you. What are your closing comments? And can you make a quick comment around exchanges as a way of learning?
Yeah, I think I think it's important, to provide opportunity for exchange because the continent, is vast. Sometimes people talk about Africa as if it's a country. So Africa is not a country. It's a continent, of 54 countries, but even many more languages. More than 1,000, languages. I think the opportunity to interact is also very important in this, space of co-creation. So I think that is important. But I also wanted to just make a comment on the African Trade Agreement, that there's one aspect that we need to pay attention to, and that is, the transformation also of the digital infrastructure, of mobile and telecommunication infrastructure in the continent. That is very, very important. I don't know what it is now. If somebody from South Africa is making a call to somebody in Kenya, or let's go further to maybe to Ghana, is it free? This is part of the thing that, that has happened in the European Union. So that needs to happen. There's a need to actually, facilitate that process where we're not just talking of integration on paper, but at the digital level as well, we need to have drastic reduction or removal of mobile communication tariffs, for example, to enable, this integration. And also, of course, broadband. So this is a big issue in the continent in order to drive, economic integration. So economic integration needs to be done alongside with digital integration. And that is a comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gifty Valom Karine Cook, you have a couple of minutes for your closing remarks.
Well, so for me, I think there's still hope. And as Eduardo said, we don't know when this will end. We don't know how it came either. So we just need to keep working. We need to keep doing what we know how to do best, and also realizing that it is time to vary some kind of routine that we've been used to when it comes to the world of work, because skills are changing and the demand out there is also changing. The crisis is pushing changes even in industries. So industries that are going to survive and be back are going to change their own structure. They are going to change their way of doing business. They will change even the skill set, because if they have survived virtually, and come a significant amount of their operations certainly will be virtual. So I want to encourage young people out there listening that there are opportunities that you can stay at home right now and develop some of these skills, but look at skills that are very impactful and have immediate use, so that you can begin using them immediately. It shouldn't be a long-term solution, because once you are in school, there are some of these skills you can easily learn them immediately and get back to your feet, so that you can continue to compete. Be open also to taking part-time jobs, be open to internship opportunities, be open also to volunteer, because through all those opportunities, you will build the needed skills, and it will earn you an opportunity in some area. I think there's a lot that we can share, still being as our individual selves, but also opening our eyes to collaborate. And the part they talk about exchange. I did a project in some time past, and I worked with individuals from Uganda, individuals from Zimbabwe, Burundi, and it was an excellent experience. We had the team coming to Ghana and the Ghanaians going there, and they learned a lot of things that happened there that we didn't know could happen in Ghana.
Thank you very much, Gifty Valom Karim Kub. Let me take comments from Genius Amaraizu. Your closing remarks there.
Yeah, okay. I'll just add in, to what Gifty just said right now. I want to advise the young persons. I'm a young person, so I'm advising my mates. The most important and your highest gift to yourself is to evolve to radical self-learning. This is an era of self-learning. This is no more an era of waiting for someone to teach you or just keep searching and searching for a job. This is an era that you take charge. You are in charge of your life, your skills, your knowledge, your opportunities. So go out there, go to the internet, search, find, and improve yourself. I want to list one or two places you can find these digital skills we're talking about. Go on Google. Google have an academy they call Skillshop. Search for Skillshop on Google, open it up, register it with your Gmail, and you have lots of certification courses you can do free of charge. Go on HubSpot, hubspot.com, you see courses. Go on Udemy or Coursera, EDS. Even Harvard have launched their online classes. Universities have now launched out their online arms. This is the world we are in now, a world of self-learning. So I encourage every young person, please take it as a matter of urgency and a matter of need to improve yourself by learning at your own pace and fast enough as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Farouk. And let me now come to the Dintle Letlapi. What are your closing thoughts, Madam?
Okay, thank you, everyone. So my parting shot really is, you know, in a world where we're all learning the same things, we're all acquiring the same skills, it's very important, especially now with COVID-19, that you set yourself apart, you know? So beyond the skills that you're going to be acquiring, I think one of the most important things is your ability to communicate, you know? So take forth those opportunities that put you on platforms that actually set you apart, you know? One of the things I wanted to share on is, with everything that's happening with COVID-19, we have a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs to spring forth. And one of the things, online coaching and learning, you know, online education. As a student, that's one thing that you could consider to your fellow peers and say, listen, I can do this, I can offer you this service. So yeah, that's really my parting shot, that set yourself apart and beyond your current role, learn certain skills that are going to make you different from your competitor. Because yeah, like I said, we all have this pandemic, which means that there'll be less jobs, and only the best of the best will be supported, will be taken. So ensure that you are the best so that you can be considered for roles. And I wish you guys all the best with your studies and your learnings. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have run out of time, and Eduarda, since you gave the opening remarks, I will veto your closing remarks, and you'll have to forgive me. We've been talking to some very special people on this webinar session on the theme, what we have learned from COVID-19, skills under threat and new opportunities. Our keynote speaker was Dr. and Mrs. Ellen Hagan, who really gave us some insights into what COVID has done to the world of work, and her response is agile work, technology savviness, digital marketing, entrepreneurship, and data analytics. We had some very strong introductory comments from Eduarda, who gave us a framework, really, for thinking around COVID. Essentially, COVID highlights inequalities and gaps. It destroys jobs and employment, but it accelerates digital transformation and adaptability, and makes prioritization necessary. And then, of course, some of our other panelists, apart from Eduarda Castel, who is the specialist for vet at ETF in Italy, was Dr. Seun Kolade. And I've taken the 58 million new jobs from him. He says, transformation will destroy 75 million jobs, but it will create 133 million more. And that really set the tone for a very optimistic discussion. Dr. Seun Kolade, Senior Lecturer in Strategic Management and Faculty Head of Research and Student Training at Montfort University. We also had Gifty Valom Karime Cook, who says, yes, the opportunities are there, but let's support our young people with contacts and better skills, and also with finance. She's a project startup consultant with Youth Challenge International in Ghana. And I also had Amaraizu Genius, whose presentation highlighted my own need for better training, because he says the digital skills required are branding and design, analytical skills, coding and programming, digital marketing, selling and communications. I have only one of those 5. So he's agreed to train me after today's session. And our data analyst on the platform, Didintle Letlape, who says it's critical thinking that matters. No matter what job you're in, make sure you acquire critical thinking skills. I want to say a big thank you to all of you and to Dr. Ellen Hagan and for the AASU team for putting this together, Abigail, and also the others. You can watch the rest of this program on Facebook. This program was brought to you by the AASU in collaboration with UNESCO. My name is Bernard Avle, a radio and TV journalist based in Accra, Ghana. Till we have another special masterclass, we'll see you next time. And stay safe wherever you are under COVID. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Good luck, everybody. Thank you, Bismarck.
Everyone left you, but who will they got top class?